Good morning, people. Today is the 25th day of September 2022. I am Scott. That down there holding a stick in his mouth is Bo. And there's no co-pilot, and the co-pilot seat is bright and early Sunday, about 9:15 in the morning. How are you doing? Today's video is going to be about the truth about what's happening with the Me Too revolution in Iran. I love these lovely staged fucking freedom photos. We see them all the time, all these different locations. I just got to get that one shot that's going to send a message to the world. Me too. Of course, the guy smiling there gives it away what a staged load of crap it is. Just like the guy smiling in this fucking photograph gave it away what a staged load of crap it was. But we won't go into that just at the moment. This is the second time I've had to make this video because the first time the video itself was too glitchy, so I had to figure out a different way to show it to you. And I talked too much. So without further ado, this is what actually happened to this young woman in Iran. So the families say that there was no pre-existing condition, that she suffered from no pre-existing condition, which of course is contradicted by the statement of a Dr. Mahsa Amini, who's a neurosurgeon, who told IRIB-TV2 News that she had a brain tumor removed at the age of 8. Quote, Mahsa Amini was treated with drugs after surgery under supervision of an endocrinologist, he said. She had a brain tumor removed when she was much younger, and she was having, she had a pre-existing condition. This is the reality. This is where I got this video from. I tried playing this on the video, the previous video, and it was super glitchy. You could not watch it. We'll go back. We'll take a look real quick again at the specifics of what we see here. And I'll talk about them. Remember that Roger Waters and so many others claim, and the reports from the pro-reform news sites claim that she was beaten in the vans. Here are the vans. Up here are the drivers. And these are other women, their faces blurred out for privacy's sake, who are being taken in to this facility to be charged and then to be sentenced watching 2.5 hours or so watching a video or some shit like that, as to the reasons why they have to wear the hijab over their heads. You will notice as she walks, she's not stumbling. The story is, the official story was, she was bashed multiple times and given a concussion while she was in the van. There's no blood on her head. There's no blood on her face. You will see that in a second in the video. And she's certainly not stumbling or having any problems. She's walking along just like the other women who are brought in here are walking along quite normally. She's adjusting her hair and her veil, and she's walking in with no problems. Not somebody who's suffering from a massive concussion that killed them, beaten to death, bashed, bludgeoned. Or so they say. The next video you see from the CCTV cameras, Mahsa here is waiting her turn to get up and go talk to apparently somebody who's a some kind of advocate. She's trying to explain, I guess, why she wasn't wearing a fucking veil or something over her head, her hijab, covering her head. And that doesn't go as well as she had planned or had hoped, I guess. But you can clearly see in the video she's not stumbling, she's not having a problem walking, and in fact, when they clear up the video for just her, because they're blurring out everybody's image for their own privacy, you can see she's not pointing out the massive contusions in her head or bruises or concussions. There's no blood on her face. She hasn't been beaten in the van. Clearly, she hasn't been beaten by anyone. She's not talking about that. She's talking about her garb. Talking about her clothes. And she says, clearly you're wearing something that has a scarf on it in your hijab, and it could be over your head. See? Now, Mahsa understands that she's lost now and she's not going to win this discussion, this debate. And so, all of a sudden, I feel faint. I'm on the, I'm down, I'm out. This happens all the time when people are faced with circumstance they don't want to be any part of. It's very commonplace. Somebody doesn't want to go to jail. They try to act as if they're having a heart attack or a stroke or reaction to an mRNA vaccine, whatever the case may be. And so by law, just like it is here in the United States, they have to bring in the medical staff and they have to transport them. That is what happened. And they have to go through the procedures to make sure they're okay, they're not sued later, and they take her off to the facility where supposedly she died. That's the story. That's the truth about what happened to Mahsa. But that doesn't fit the narrative well enough not to justify this, the Me Too revolution in fucking Iran. So, instead, we get stories, ridiculous stories, involving bullshit, which that guy certainly seems to think this photo shoot is. Very similar to, I don't know, that guy. Are you with me so far? Good. One more thing I'd like to show you, just so you understand. But before we do, yes, that is a cultural requirement in their country, wearing a hijab. Kind of like the cultural requirement we have down here in Florida, where you can't go naked to a beach. You have to wear a certain amount of cloth covering certain parts of your body, because if you don't, somebody will come along and put you in a van. You can't walk down the street or go to Walmart or go to Publix and take off your pants because you want to walk around the produce section stuffing various pieces of produce in your buttocks. You can't do that. Some places you can. Some countries you can. Not here. You can go to the beach nude in some countries, but you can't here. We have cultural guidelines. Some make sense, like the thing in the produce section. Some don't make sense, like the thing at the beach. But we can't start a fucking war with a country or promote a revolution because somebody wants to go to the fucking beach and show her titties off. That's not the way it works. Now, people will say, Scott, that's not the same thing. It's not the same thing here. It is the same thing there. I'll give you another current example. You can't teach your high school class while wearing prosthetic breasts that each weigh 110 pounds and expect to be taken seriously. That's a cultural norm. It makes sense. We all agree. Keep your sexuality out of the fucking classroom. That's not the same everywhere, but it's the same. It's the situation here, and it makes sense to us. It doesn't make sense to everyone else. Before you start talking about the fucking splinter in someone else's eye, take the plank out of your own. And if I haven't made it clear enough yet in terms of how these fucking narratives are spun and how bullshit they are, I'll give you one more example. If I might. I have to pull it up. I thought I had it ready, but I didn't. I'm unprepared for class.
I mean, I wasn't listening. We were conversing a bit. But did I hear, and I think, did you say that a police officer was bludgeoned to death by the crowd at the January 6 riots?
I said a police officer was bludgeoned to death. I did not say at the hands of whom, Mr. Bishop.
Who are you referring to, if you don't mind saying?
I can get that information for you in a few minutes.
Well, I just want to make sure, because
are you denying that that at least one Capitol police officer was murdered in the midst of what happened on January 6th?
Yeah, I think I am denying. I mean, here's what I understood, that there were reports early on that Sicknick was struck with a fire extinguisher, and that subsequently was debunked as false. He died of natural causes that were not connected to the event. Are we talking about the same person, Sicknick, or are we talking about somebody?
Ooh, Scott. You're making a connection. You're making a connection between somebody who, supposedly, the official narrative was bludgeoned to death, and turns out they died of something else. In this case, natural causes. Wow, that's an interesting fucking comparison, Scott. Very nice, thank you.
Else. Seriously, I mean, this
is a genuine question, because the medical examiner, the U.S. Capitol Police put out a report agreeing with the medical examiner finding the USCP officer Brian Sicknick died of natural
Bishop,
causes.
Well, just an initial thought, and I.
And you can listen to him struggle and make up bullshit afterwards, all you want. Yeah, this is how it works. That's the official story. The official story was the guy was bludgeoned to death, when in fact he wasn't. But they wanted to use the tragedy of his death to their purposes. And even now, all this time after, it was proven that nobody was bludgeoned to death with a fucking fire extinguisher at the insurrection of 1/6, which, by the way, it wasn't. The truth of the matter is, even in the wake of the evidence that is out there, from the medical report to the coroner's report to the fucking actual report from the fucking Capitol Police, the lie still persists. And when faced with the evidence, this individual is going to continue with the lie and then double down on the lie. Because the lie is so fucking important. when the evidence is right there in your face for all to see. We live in a post-truth world, in a post-truth society. Here's the truth. The truth is that Mahsa was not fucking bludgeoned to death in the back of a van. That is the truth. Whatever happened, whether she did it in order to try to avoid having to, whatever the fucking repercussions were of what she did, whether she staged it herself, as many people facing punishment do, or whether it was legitimately something that just happened at that particular moment because of stress. Who knows? But the reality is, she wasn't beaten to death because she wasn't wearing a hijab any more than any of those other women in there were beaten for not wearing a hijab. This is the truth of what happened. Now, this is the truth of what happened. And this is the truth of what they try to do with it. How they try to fucking manipulate any event, even one as tragic as the loss of a 22-year-old woman. How they try to manipulate any event to serve their own fucking interests. It is offensive. It is despicable. People high on their own sense of self-righteousness are capable of doing all kinds of things, including this ridiculous stunt with a fucking burning stick, because someone once said fire in the background makes it more dramatic. That's the truth of what happened to Mahsa. Like it or not. Just like the truth of what actually happened on January 6th at the Capitol is a fact, like it or not. I thank you for your time.